I want to return to the topic we explored earlier with President Ono around being this global university, but also having being anchored here in Michigan and Ann Arbor and Detroit specifically. And so, Jude, let me start with you on this, and then we'll move to Sean and Rob. Can you talk about the university's international goals and how they intersect with being kind of a good member and partner in the community? Because again, some people might say, well, we're a state university in the state of Michigan. Why do we need international students?
Right. Well, as you mentioned before, we're in the backyard of Detroit, and a stone's throw from Detroit is another country. It's Canada, right? And so we are international by nature, you know. And I don't think it's incongruent, right? I think you can be a public serving institution and a global institution at the same time. The types of things that we're teaching, the ideas and concepts our students are learning, the research we're doing, it's all global. We've learned something from the pandemic. We've learned something from topics like climate change, sustainability. We can't just do it in a vacuum. We have to be thinking about more than our community. So I think our goals around engaged learning, making sure students have opportunities to grow inside and outside of the classroom and figure out how to solve big problems. Because as LaShawn mentioned, her generation is going to solve the problems for us.
We hope.
You know, I think that's all part of our work. And if we have a diverse student body coming from around the country, as that was noted earlier, as well as around the world, 125 countries, we want to make sure that we are thinking about things not only locally, but globally.
So, LaShawn, what has that meant for you? We talked about around the country. You're from Georgia. But how is the worldwide view of higher education here, and how has that changed or enriched your experience here as an undergraduate?
Yeah, there's no denying that the University of Michigan is very well resourced. I think I've had a lot of opportunities like this that I've taken advantage of, and I will always be grateful for those. I think what's more important to me, though, is what we do with where we are, not necessarily how we're ranked. I think it's important, like you were saying, I think it is international by nature, but starting small is also very key. I've learned a lot about community building and community resiliency in the past couple years, and I think, you know, learning to take care of yourself and others first, I think can radiate out in unimaginable ways, honestly, to the local community, state community, national, international. So I think really just does start small, and I think that's cliche, but I've learned that it's true, and I've been working to practice that in my life, and it's been really fulfilling.
And Rob, how about you in terms of what are the things you're thinking about that maybe your colleagues at other universities don't necessarily think about because you have this huge footprint around the world?
Well, there's some responsibility from a practical standpoint, as Judith mentioned. You know, we have students and other affiliates, you know, traveling around the world. Just like we have to do in our own backyard, we have to understand the health and safety of our folks when they're, you know, not here. The way I would think about this is, I was reminded when I was listening to the earlier segment with President Ono when he talked about the importance of a student experience. It's a transformational time. You know, it's a long time ago for me, but I'm always energized when I think about that opportunity for students to transform themselves. And that happens in the ecosystem that's enriched by diversity and diverse backgrounds and experiences. And the Okanagan Charter, you know, I mentioned earlier, you know, this international charter, it's grounded in principles of equity and diversity and really speaks to the interconnectedness of people, communities, and the entire planet. You know, if there's any, you know, if there's pain in one of those, then it gets transmitted to others, you know. So, but if there's, you know, goodness and, you know, you enrichment by the experiences of others as well. So I think diversity is a key ingredient to an ecosystem for transformative experiences.